Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of the Lord of the Rings LCG Progression Series. And tonight is a card review of the Land of Sorrow Adventure Pack. So let's take a look. The hero is Gwaihir, a eagle hero with 13 threat, 2 willpower, 4 attack, 3 shields, 4 health. Those are great stats. Cannot have restricted attachments. He's ranged and sentinel. Gwaihir does not ready during the refresh phase. Okay. After an eagle ally enters or leaves play, ready Gwaihir. Limit once per phase. So basically, in order to ready him normally, you need to play an eagle ally in the next planning phase, or use something like Unexpected Courage, or Gwaihir's Debt, or Flight of the Eagles, or something like that. Winged Guardians, Vassals of the Windlord. This is going to make Gwaihir more inconsistent than other heroes, because he requires other cards to be good. He's bad on his own. He may be one of the worst heroes in the game on his own. Like, if you didn't have any extra action advantage cards for him or any eagle allies, this would be a flat out awful hero, because you would get one action out of him and then nothing more for the rest of the game. So he absolutely requires other cards to be good. With a variety of other cards, he can be good because his 4 attack is very strong and 3 shields is quite strong. Without the other cards, he's flat out awful, and that's going to be very inconsistent. Like, not even reasonable. Without the other cards, he's really bad. So he's going to be very inconsistent, because in the games where you draw the cards you need in the right order, you can make him quite good. But he requires specific deck design, and that's going to be limiting, because the Eagles aren't that great. They're okay, but they're not like Furial or GBR or any of the really strong allies. But yeah, the eagle restrictions are going to limit you, and the text of the card is going to make him very inconsistent. And very inconsistent will not be elite. And so this would be a fun hero that you can kind of make work. It might even be good some games, but he's going to be flat out awful in others. I really like the idea of the card, and the stats are cool, and I wish this ability wasn't as limiting as it is. Or that there was a way to make him less inconsistent with like an attachment or something like that you could start the game with. There are attachments that you can make him less inconsistent with. Unexpected Courage would be an example. But I mean something you could, start the game with that would help you overcome his limitation, or an attachment made just for him. Like, Gwaihir's whatever. Like the wizards have their attachments. But or like Lord Findel's Light of Valinor. But as this isn't the case, this is a very inconsistent hero, and therefore a fun deck hero. In spite of his very good stats, the very good stats are not going to be good at all when you cannot ready him, which is going to happen sometimes, because he requires combo cards to make it happen, to ready him, and specific deck design. It's a bit of a disappointment there, I think. A purely fun deck hero would be my evaluation of this card. Hobbit Archer, 2 cost, 1102. Hobbit Archer gets +1 attack while attacking an enemy with a higher engagement cost than your threat. Well, it's okay in that situation. So this would be, but it's not good in other situations. So this is a card that you need to play in like the Hobbit low threat deck. And that deck is currently a fun deck, as well as the Eagle deck. So far, this expansion pack looks like it's for fun thematic players. But we'll see. The Hobbit Archer is not going to make it into serious decks, unless a Hobbit deck can be elevated into elite status. Seems unlikely, but it could happen. Red Book of West March. Attached to a Hobbit hero, 3 cost, restricted. While attached heroes committed to the quest, each Hobbit character gets +1 willpower. After you quest successfully, exhaust Red Book of Westmarch to add 1 resource to attached hero's resource pool. So it's even better than Sword That Was Broken. That's a very good card. That definitely elevates Hobbit decks. It's not going to elevate them to elite status, I don't think. But it definitely is very strong for Hobbit decks. Very, very strong. I would include that in every Hobbit deck. Because it's very good. This card is going to open up possibilities for Hobbit decks in a lot of different quests. I don't think it quite elevates a Hobbit deck to the status of like being able to defeat every quest in the game. But it's a very, very good card if you like Hobbits. If you like Hobbit decks, I could unequivocally recommend this adventure pack just for that card, because it's really going to elevate Hobbit decks a lot. I don't see it elevating them to elite status, but it's going to make Hobbit decks quite good against some difficult quests. Dale Messenger. 2 cost, 1/1/1, 2 health. After Dale Messenger enters play, choose a player. That player heals 1 damage from each character he controls with a player card attachment. It's okay. It's gonna sit in your hand a lot waiting for the right time to use it. Healing cards tend to do that. The only healing card I really like is Yorith. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. This doesn't really elevate Dale decks. It might be worth a look in a Dale deck. Outside of a Dale deck, no. In the Dale deck, yeah, it might be worth a look. Once again, this is on theme for the adventure pack, though. These are all cards for fun thematic decks. Nothing here for serious players yet. Song of Healing, 0 cost, attached to a hero, limit 1 per hero. Discard 1 card from your hand to heal 1 damage from attached hero. Any player may trigger this effect. Well, as the art suggests, this is likely makes the most sense in a Noldor deck, which is kind of designed to discard cards. Outside of Noldor, it gives you an option. It's another way to heal. My favorite is Yorith, and is this card better than the Yorith? No, I don't think so. I have not seen any healing card that's as good as that one, and so I don't know if you'd play both of them. That's a lot of healing. Yorith's usually enough to get the job done. But I suppose if you absolutely needed it and it made sense, Song of Healing made sense as well, you could give it a look. But I think this card is likely overshadowed in most decks, except maybe Noldor. But I haven't really run into problems with wanting healing when I've played Noldor, so your mileage may vary. I think it'll depend on the playstyle of the player. A lot of players like to run healing a lot more than I do. And if you do, and you find yourself needing a card to include to make use of your duplicate cards, you could run this. It would be free in that instance. Inconsistent though, because you might actually need healing sometimes but not have anything to discard. Its best use is likely a Noldor deck. So we got a Noldor, a Dale, 2 Hobbit cards, and an Eagle so far. Eagle Emissary, 2 cost, 2 willpower, 1 attack, 0 shields, 2 health. Cannot have restricted attachments. After Eagle Emissary quest successfully, pay 1 tactics resource or discard it from play. So it's the questing version of Winged Guardian or Vassal of the Windlord. And it will proc Y here. It's a fun card though, because it costs 1 resource every time you want to quest with it. That could make its cost quite large relative to its stats. Even 1 cost is pretty unacceptable. So the only way this card makes sense is with Gwai here, and once again that deck is going to be quite inconsistent. So this Eagle Emissary would be another fun thematic card. Bilbo's Plan, 0 cost. After you attack and destroy an enemy, shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and discard cards from the top until an enemy is discarded. Add that enemy to the staging area to discard a non-unique location with threat equal to or less than that enemy's threat. Okay, I get what they're going for. So this basically replaces a location in the staging area with an enemy. For dealing with locations that are nasty, there's a lot of better options than this. That's like a lateral move, or could even be worse. Or do nothing at all. If you were trying to get a 2-threat location out of the staging area, you could discard until you find a 1-threat enemy and have to add it to staging and no additional result. That would be terrible. What a terrible card in that situation. Like not even neutral, it'd be worse than doing nothing. So when this card is good, it's not that good. In fact, it's barely good at all when it's good. And when it's bad, it's really bad. So I cannot imagine any situation where I would play this. There are much, much better options for dealing with nasty locations. This card, I just can't imagine. Even in a fun thematic deck, I can't imagine playing this. It could be really, really bad card. And you can only use it after you attack and destroy an enemy. Is this card intended to help you like troll your friends in multiplayer? Yeah. Sometimes a card comes along that I don't understand why it exists. A lot of cards that I don't think are good are at least thematic or seem fun to play in thematic decks. But this card, I don't see a reason for it. Ever. Unless I'm missing something, I can't imagine why you would play this over better options, unless you didn't have the better options, but even then I don't know that I would play this if I didn't have another way to do this effect. I mean, if I wanted to tackle a Nightmare Quest and I had absolutely nothing else, maybe, but even then I think it'd be a lateral move at best. Sometimes it would leave you in a worse off position. Sometimes, occasionally, you'd be slightly better off. Anyway, moving on. Spare pipe, 1 cost, attached to a character. Attached character gets +1 hit point. After you play spare pipe, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an event and add it to your hand. Oh well, if you're playing a lot of events, at least this card replaces itself and gives you +1 hit point. If it doesn't replace itself and you just get 1 hit point for 1 cost, that's not very good. And it costs you a card. That's really not very good. So this is going to be a inconsistent card, which is okay when it works. If it said 1 cost, 1 hit point, and draw a card, would I play it? Probably not in non-attachment decks, to be honest. That effect isn't even that good, so even without the inconsistency, I don't think it would be that good. So this would be a fun thematic card for a pipe deck, which is on brand. So far we've had all fun thematic cards and Bilbo's plan. Smoke and Think. 0 cost. Reduce the cost of the next card you play by 1 for each pipe you control. Oh, okay. Well, that's good if you got a bunch of pipes out. Reminds me a little of King of Dale. The Dale deck is something I wanted to make work and I thought would be better than it was. Just didn't find it very strong because of the inconsistent nature of it due to all the card combos you need. And the pipe deck would fall into a similar category, but likely worse. Still, for what it's worth, this does improve the pipe deck quite a bit. So if you like pipe decks, this card does improve a pipe deck quite a bit. It's another fun thematic card. If you like Hobbit pipe decks, this is the adventure pack for you. And pipe deck seems fun to play. It's never occurred to me that it could be an elite deck, certainly. But this Smoke and Think is going to be a good card in a pipe deck. Williador. Haven't seen him since A Journey to Rosgobel. 1 cost, 1 willpower, 3 attack, 2 shields, 3 health. 1 cost is good. Ranged Sentinel cannot have restricted attachments. At the end of the round, discard Windlord unless the players as a group spend 1 resource. You could keep him around for 2 turns and he'd still be pretty good. This card is definitely intended to help you with the early game weakness of Gwai here, since you could play it on turn 1 to help him ready up, keep him around for a round. This is going to be a good card in a Eagle deck. Good card in a Gwai deck. It helps with the early game weakness of Gwai. It helps a lot if you draw it, but that's the big caveat if you draw it. And so it doesn't make the Eagle, it makes the Eagle deck slightly less consistent in that it provides you one more option for proccing Gwai's ability. But slightly less inconsistent isn't quite what we're looking for. We're looking for more than that to make the deck elite, because the deck is so inconsistent that slightly less inconsistent barely makes a dent in the deck's inconsistency, due to the fact that sometimes if you don't have the right cards, Gwai does absolutely nothing. At least it doesn't leave you in a worse off situation than you were, but doing nothing is about as bad as it gets. You want your cards that are inconsistent, you want them to still do something when they're bad. And Gwai does nothing when he's bad, and so that's a lot of inconsistency to overcome. And Windlord helps, but doesn't get you all the way there to elite status. So it's another addition to the fun thematic deck, the Eagles deck. I don't think I'd play it in a serious deck ever, a non-Eagles deck, because it'd be good early, and never totally useless, but the longer you keep it on the board, the worse it gets in terms of its cost efficiency. Could help overcome some early game weaknesses, maybe. Unlikely I'd play that card though, I think, due to its late game or overtime weaknesses, let's say. But that early game strength could be enough to warrant some inclusion in an elite deck. It could be. Could be enough. I don't know if you'd run 3 of. But when comboed with something like Radagast, this could be something. Could be. The 1 cost for 3 attack and 2 shields is really good. That's a really good chump blocker, at least. Yeah. I like this card. It's probably the best card of the adventure pack so far. Keep it in mind. It's neutral as well. That helps with Tri-Sphere decks. It's a card that's intended to help overcome early game weakness. So if you find your deck having an early game weakness in battling, that is, or shielding, doesn't help with questing much. It's not useless at it though. So I think this is the strongest card of the adventure pack so far. Well, in a vacuum, the Red Book of Westmarch in a Hobbit deck is stronger than Windlord. But in a vacuum, in a non-thematic deck, Windlord is the strongest card of the adventure pack so far. Haven't looked at the contract yet. But he does get worse the longer you go on in the game. Messenger of the King, that's our contract. You cannot choose more than 2 heroes during setup, staying consistent with the major limitations. Choose a non-neutral unique ally from your deck and put it into play. Add the sum of that ally's printed willpower, attack, and shields and hit points to your starting threat. Then flip this card over and attach it to that ally. Attached ally loses the ally card type and gains the hero card type. Oh, okay. So the you cannot choose more than 2 heroes isn't a limitation. Attached character cannot be readied more than once per phase. Messenger of the King is immune to card effects while attached character is in play. If attached character leaves play, remove Messenger of the King from the game. This is the best contract I've seen so far. It has barely any limitations and provides options in deck building, because decks that relied on a specific ally coming out can now be made much less inconsistent because you can guarantee that ally since you start the game with it. And there are a number of allies off the top of my head that are very interesting with this card. Faramir, for example, my favorite ally of all time, Leadership Faramir, the ally version. Now, you can't do any shenanigans like exhausting him for the +1 willpower, readying him, and exhausting him again. So that limitation of... Well, actually you can do that, but only once. I mean, that would be insanely good, though, for willpower decks. I think this card is very, very good. Definitely the best contract so far. It probably is even elite. There's going to be decks out there that'll defeat everything, I think, based around this card. Maybe, yeah, I think there will be. It wouldn't be an easy deck to find, but I think it probably exists. This is a very, very strong card. Best card of the adventure pack. The only card for serious players, really. Willie Adore, possibly, but Messenger of the King, definitely. It's very good, very interesting card. Going to open up a wide variety of decks. I would recommend this adventure pack for this card alone because of the deck building options it's going to open up. That's an exceptional card. Best contract by far. And opens up a lot of possibilities. Furial would be great with this. There's probably tons of allies that I'm not thinking of that could be very, very strong with Messenger of the King. Very good contract. Looking forward to playing that one. So, thanks for watching.